Landholders will expect to see more erosion after bushfire events. Obviously the ground cover's gone. When rain falls there's nothing to capture the rain, and the bushfire actually makes the ground more hydrophobic, so it repels water, and that causes increases in rill erosion, into gully erosion, and also major impacts of sediment into streams. The main drivers of erosion in the landscape are obviously slope, intensity of rainfall events are following, so very intensive rainfall events will cause more erosion than less intense, and ground cover obviously. So when we've got bared out soils after bushfires, the intensity of erosion and the damage caused can be much higher. There are some things that landholders can do to address problems themselves with wood and timber on properties and realignment of timber and small-scale erosion works themselves. There are some things that are too big at too large a scale for really them to effectively change, and they need to look at change land management around those sites.
Knowing when to get involved and when to intervene and when not's really important. So really, if it's large catchments and steep catchments where you can't physically get in to work on things like sediment traps and control structures, it's very hard to really become effective. However, if you've got smaller catchments that measured in maybe a hectare or two, and where you can get access, they're the type of circumstances that you could actually try to make a change on ground and do some work.
After a fire, particularly when properties have lost fences and had dramatic impacts on farm dams, it's really important to look at the planning for the re-fencing and protecting catchment assets, protecting your gullies and your dams with where your fencing goes, and also some of the interventions that can be done because of the erosion impacts happening.
And look, in some situations too, you may be better off waiting until things settle down. You could get repeated sort of sediment slugs coming down your gullies and valleys, which can fill up dams repeatedly. Understanding when to actually hold off a bit and not waste your time in intervening is also important. Yeah, it's really important to prioritise your efforts. In some cases it might be important just to let things go, but in other cases where you've got high priority water sources like dams, or also assets like crossings or culverts or tracks, might be better to actually think about interventions for those type of cases. It all depends on the pasture before the fire, but if you've had annual pastures or annual weeds, it's likely to be like that after a fire, whereas if you've got perennial pastures, you're likely to see some good recovery afterwards. Existing areas sensitive to erosion are likely to get worse under post-fire conditions with increased runoff, so anything you can do to address them is always a good idea before the fire.
There is a lot of information out there through the different departments and agencies working with landholders to support them into the future, so and we learn after every fire, so we're increasing our knowledge about what's the best intervention to take.
So in summary, really the important things are about prioritising where you put your work and when to intervene, and also consider the farm planning aspects of recovery and the importance really of ground cover.